Hello again, Braves fans. Jason and Mike with you, and we have a new episode, an exciting episode of the 9521 Atlanta Baseball Podcast. We're going to do our normal recap as we look back on a really great week for the Braves, as the Braves will go 5-1 since the last time we spoke with you and have won 5 consecutive games. But also, following that recap, a special guest, a very special guest, former Atlanta Braves player and Major League Baseball player Brian Hunter, a member of the 1991, 92, and 99 Braves NL champion squads. Brian Hunter had a lot of big hits during his time with Atlanta. 91 was actually his rookie season. So more to come. We'll get Brian on here in just a little bit. But first, we want to recap a very good week. Mike, welcome back for another episode as we look back on the week that was. And winners of 5 in a row and a solid lead in the NL East as our division rivals continue to struggle. The Braves are taking advantage of it.
Yeah, and just a little sweep over the Phillies. It was great. It was, we just putting it to everyone at this point.
Yeah, look, we'll always take a sweep of Philly, especially one at Citizens Bank Park. First time in a decade, I believe I saw. So really good news there. Let's backtrack to last Monday. We'll get the one loss out of the way right off the bat. Last Monday, the Braves hosted the Marlins. And, the Marlins have been playing decent baseball so far. And they came in and got 3 runs off of the Braves in the 4th inning. The Braves offense actually answered right back in that game, Mike. In the bottom half of the 3rd, they tied it. That was Grant Holmes that started. A little shaky there in that 4th inning, 3 earned runs. Aaron Bummer came in the next inning and did not fare too well as he gave up 3 runs right back in the very next inning. And then in the 6th inning, 3 more runs as Raldy Munoz made his debut with the Braves. He had just been called up. He didn't pitch so well either, and before we knew it, a 3-3 game turned into a 10-4 loss. So, not a lot to write home about there. Matt Olson did have a couple hits in that game. Michael Harris, who's really coming around, he had a couple hits in that game. And the Braves fall to the Marlins in Game 1. So, if the Braves were going to keep their undefeated series streak going, they were going to have to win the final 2 games of that series. And guess what, Mike? They did that.
They did.
So Tuesday night was a fun game, at least at the end. The Braves fell behind early again in this one, 4 runs for Miami in the first 2 innings. The Braves chipped away, got it to 4-3. And this was a Ronaldo Lopez start. He didn't have his best stuff going on this night either. Lopez would end up pitching 5 innings, which I thought was big. He had a couple of shaky innings to start, Mike. He stays in, he fights, he battles, he gets through 5 to save a little bullpen time there. Ends up giving up 3 earned, walks 3, Ks 6. So all in all, not a great start for Ronaldo, but I thought it was important the way he battled, and we didn't have to use as much of the bullpen as we would have.
Yeah. It was a great final couple innings. It was great. I loved them loading the bases, and Dom just hits a little dying fly ball into left center. It's great.
Yeah, Dominic Smith comes through again after. Our guy Robert Suarez gave up his first run in the top of the 8th to give the Marlins a little bit of a cushion. It wasn't looking good for that series undefeated streak. 5-3, bottom of the 8th, and the Braves start scratching across some hits and some walks. And our guy Dominic Smith, who has just been unbelievable. Not sure where we'd be without him. He comes up, clears the bases clearing double, gives the Braves a 6-5 lead, and then Iglesias comes in, shuts it down, and the Braves have a really big comeback win to tie that series up and give themselves a chance to win another series on Wednesday, which they did do on Wednesday. The Braves got Bryce Elder. They got good Bryce Elder again. 5 2/3 innings for Bryce, 4 hits, no earned runs, walked 2, K'd 7. And the Braves gave him some run support in the 2nd inning. They got out to a quick start in this one. Ozzie Albies, homers. And then they kind of scratched across some runs until later. Austin Riley finally got his first home run in this game. And now he's on a bit of a hot streak since then. Matt Olson hit his 5th home run, and the Braves were on their way to a 6-3 win in this one. And they win another series, Mike. After losing the first game, I thought it was really huge for them to battle back in that game 2 and then come out and get the series win in the 3rd game.
Yeah, a great game for Elder, going 5 2/3, striking out 7. Lowered his ERA to 0.77, which is outstanding, and Iggy shuts the door for another save.
Yeah, I did want to stop on Iglesias. He had a little bit of a shaky a ninth inning last night against the Phillies to close that one out. But I mean, he's just been lights out. He's been the Iggy that we've known, except for maybe a little bit of the first half last season. He struggled. The rest of his time with Atlanta, he's been about as reliable as you can be as a closer. And we really have two closers now, Mike, Robert Suarez and Iglesias. I mean, you talked about this in the offseason. I saw somebody put this a certain way on Twitter. I thought it was perfect. The Braves actually have two closers, both of which are probably better than anybody else's closer in the league. I mean, we've got two guys that could close for any team right now across Major League Baseball, except maybe Mason Miller, who's just ridiculous right now. But
he's
just
throwing
insane.
Absolutely. It's like 70% whiff rate. And I'm like, that's insane.
Yeah. How many times, though, in the last few seasons, Mike, have we turned the game over to the bullpen and we've kind of just gritted our teeth and clenched our fists and just let's hold on for dear life here? I don't feel that way right now.
No.
Look, every bullpen's going to have a shaky outing. But right now, when we get to the 7th, 8th, 9th inning with those guys, we got Dylan Lee, too, by the way. He's fantastic right now. He's making some big pitches. Aaron Bummer had a big out last night. He gave up a double to Kyle Schwarber first, but he did come back and get Bryce Harper. Got a little help from Austin Riley on that. A really good defensive play, but got out of a big inning last night. So overall, the bullpen is doing everything we could ask and more. And over the weekend, big series with the Phillies. It's always big when we play the Phillies. We're actually playing them again. They're coming to Atlanta this weekend. Good start to go to Citizens Bank and get a sweep. So Friday night, the Braves roll in, and they didn't waste any time nailing some runs on the board. 7 runs in the first 3 innings for Atlanta. And before the Phillies could really catch their breath, the Braves were up 7-0. And Martin Perez in that game, I was watching that first inning, and he was struggling. And it looked like the Phillies might blow it open in the first inning. Instead, he gets out of it, works his way out of it, ends up going 6 innings after that, and only allowing 4 hits, K'd 4, and gave the Braves a great start there. And offensively, it was just a show. After kind of scratching out a couple runs, you get Matt Olson gets an RBI single. Austin Riley gets home run number 2. That's a 3-run shot for Riley. And Dominic Smith, guess what? His 4th home run. He goes deep. Michael Harris gets his 3rd home run. And then Austin Riley, number 3, on a fly ball to right, his 2nd of the night, his 3rd of the week, his 3rd of the season. And the Braves had a 9-0 shutout win behind Martin Perez, of all people. I mean, of all the starters we talked about, Mike, we worried about Schwellenbach being out, Waldrop being out, Strider being out, and Martin Perez, who was actually DFA'd, left the team kind of. I think they knew all along what they were going to do. He comes back around, they re-sign him, they put him in there to start Friday night. He comes through, and the Braves just shelled Taijuan Walker, who I know he's been struggling, and the Braves took advantage of that. So what else do you say about that one, Mike? 9-0, great start to the series.
I'm just glad that Austin Riley's finally woken up. 2 homers in that game, both of them to right center, which means he's seeing the ball well. Which means if you're hitting the other way with power, you're seeing the ball well and you're hitting the ball well. So it's outstanding. If he's finally off the schneid, we don't have to worry too much about him. He's gonna recover from his slow start.
Yeah, absolutely. Riley is a key part of this team. I said it all off season. If the Braves are going to do the things we want the Braves to do this year, like win a pennant, hopefully get deep into the postseason, they're going to have Austin Riley. And he is starting to come around. And traditionally, you just said it exactly right. Traditionally, when Riley is successful, he's hitting the ball the other way with power, and he's starting to do that. The only guy that hasn't warmed up on this offense yet really is Acuna. He's getting some singles. He's getting on base. He's playing great defense. He had a game-saving catch there in the 9th inning last night. He's just not hitting with power. He's still stuck on 1 homer. He's got a couple doubles. Any worries there, Mike? Is it just an Acuna slow start here? He's going to come around, or what's going on?
Yeah, I think it's probably just a slow start. I don't see anything like fundamentally wrong with him. I think he's just – a lot of people have had that WBC hangover, and maybe he's just another one of those. He's had I believe he had pretty good WBC. So I mean, yeah, maybe he's just got that hangover that Cal Raleigh had and Judge had to begin the season. They've kind of come out of it. I don't know if Raleigh has, but maybe he's just got the hangover.
Yeah, I think one thing about Acuna, he's very emotional. He's a very emotional player. We've seen him challenge a lot of balls with ABS. He probably shouldn't have because I think he just gets in his head. He's like, no, no, that can't be a strike, and he's usually wrong so far. And I think that also makes him very frustrated when he's not hitting because I've seen him. He's pressing. I think he's swinging at some balls he probably wouldn't normally swing at.
Mhm.
It'll come for him. I think once he calms down. The good thing is the rest of the offense is picking him up, and so far we haven't needed Acuna's bat to be 15-7 right now. So
I know.
yeah, he'll come around for sure. Saturday night, Chris Sale on the mound. So we're feeling pretty good. Sale had a little bit of struggles his previous outing, so I think we want to see Sale come out. He's been really good, and I thought Saturday night he started to look really great. The slider started to break. Um, I think he's actually trying to pitch to contact a little more to get quicker innings. I think the whole Braves staff is doing that. So that could explain some of the. I mean, he's still striking guys out, just not at the rate we're maybe accustomed to. But
Yeah.
he was Chris Sale Saturday night. He gives up a home run to the new Phillies rookie, Felix Reyes, his first game, his first at bat as a major leaguer. You see that? I feel like you see that a little more often, Mike, than maybe you would expect.
Yeah, and how big for him to hit it off a
Yeah,
future Hall
Chris
Hall of
Sale.
Famer.
Yeah, yeah. That's something he'll never forget. And we're going to talk. One thing I want to talk to Brian Hunter about tonight is that first at bat, that first hit. How that feels. But yeah, Felix Reyes comes in. I also think that happens quite a bit now because I think these pitchers, especially a veteran like Chris Sale, is going to say, "All right, rookie, I'm going to throw you a heater. I'm going to give it to you over the plate, see if you can hit it." And he did. So to his credit, he hit it out.
Yeah.
But that would be the extent mostly of the Phillies offense. It would be the extent of the Phillies offense. Um, and the Braves had to do something, Mike, that, I want to get your thoughts on this. That last year, I'm not sure that team does this. They're facing Christopher Sanchez, who is a beast. Sanchez is a great pitcher. Yeah, he's tough to beat. I knew it was going to be a tough game. That's a great pitcher's duel. And the Braves just scratch across some runs in the third inning. Nothing was really super hard hit. Riley gets a little a dinky infield single, and Sanchez can't field it cleanly. He falls down, run scores, ties the game, and then Dubon hits a little kind of a flare in the short left center that falls in and gets a couple more runs home, and that was it for the offense. I don't know if that team last year can do that, Mike. Just make some contact, make something good happen. They've done it really the last two nights against Philly. Your thoughts on where this offense is when things aren't clicking and they have to scratch some runs across?
Yeah, I agree with you. Last year, I feel like it was home run or bust, and that was it. And they were just swinging for the fences, wouldn't try and just hit a ball the other way and find some holes. I mean, I still don't think anyone's going to bunt, but I mean that's kind of what we grew up with was bunt someone over, like just get people moving. Like, but
Yeah,
I don't see that happening. But hey, I'll take what I can get. If they're being scrappy enough and hitting the other way and finding holes, that's fine.
yeah. Yeah, like I said, it happened again last night. Real quick, though, Sale, 7 innings, one earned. That was the homer. 7 strikeouts, only one walk. Just amazing. And then the bullpen again. Dylan Lee, 1 inning, no hits, no walks. And then Robert Suarez actually closed this game. We found out after the game, apparently, Iglesias had slept wrong on his shoulder and wasn't sure if he could go. So Suarez, who's been a closer for a lot of his career, came in, clean inning, 2 strikeouts, no walks, no hits, and the Braves had the series win. Another series win wrapped up before we even get to Sunday night. And the Braves are enjoying some Sunday night baseball so far. Last Sunday, they beat Cleveland on national television. And then last night, again, they fall behind early. Grant Holmes, who I was really nervous about pitching in this game, I just wasn't sure. And he came out a little shaky, gave up a couple first inning runs, but limited the damage. He ends up going 4 2/3. Not his best outing, and I still have some questions, Mike. Me and you, I don't know if we've delved too far into this. There's a big debate going on social media with Braves fans. Is Grant Holmes a starter, or should he be kind of a middle relief, long bullpen guy? The way Elder has been pitching, he got off to a shaky start tonight as we record this. They're playing the Nats, gave up a couple runs. Heard my wife clapping in the background. Apparently, Olsen tied the game a little while ago. But if Elder continues to be the Bryce Elder we've seen so far, I could see moving Grant Holmes to the bullpen when Strider comes back. What are your thoughts around Grant?
Um, yeah, I feel like he's probably more of like a long relief kind of guy. But I would, I'm trying to think Perez would be the first one I would think would go somewhere. But I'm trying to think. So Sale, Strider,
Lopez.
Elder. I would keep Holmes in there until someone else comes back. I feel like Martin Perez to me is too iffy.
Yeah.
Sure, Holmes is, but I trust him more than Perez.
Yeah, I agree. I do wonder when we're going to get another look at Fuentes or Richie or both. They're both still pitching really well. I know they delayed Fuentes' last start. There's been some talk I saw today. Walt Weiss said they are considering pushing Sale back to the Philadelphia series. He's scheduled to pitch the final game of this Nat series, but he did throw 101 pitches. They were very stressful innings, in a big game like that. So there's a chance we could see maybe Fuentes come up and pitch the final game of the Nats series, but we'll have to wait and see. So last night, Holmes gets out of that mess, and then the offense picked him up. And again, it was just kind of a scrappy, offensive showing where the Braves just found a way to get some runs. And they got 3 in the 5th. They got 1 in the 3rd back, and then they took the lead in the 5th. And again, it was just kind of some scrappy stuff here. Michael Harris got him on the board with a homer. That's his 4th. He's been hot. He had a great series. And then going back to what we were talking about, making contact, Matt Olson comes up and grounds out, but he hustles and prevents a double play and a tying run scored on that. Those are little things because, we all know Matt's prone to the strikeout. He makes contact, gets a run home, and enables the rally to keep going because as Austin Riley hits another little kind of a soft ground ball that allows another run to score, and then Ozzie hits a double and gets another. So, again, they just kind of threw together a scrappy inning. They didn't rely on just a home run ball. And that, to me, that's really good to see. On the nights when they don't have the extra base hits going, they still find a way. And before you know it, the Braves have swept the Phillies, Mike, and 5 straight, 15-7, 8 games over 500. Boy, it sure does feel better than the start last year.
Oh, so much better. Yeah, what I wrote down about the Riley's at bat was he hit an 80-foot dribbler to third, and Bohm had to pocket it because he was hustling down the line, and Bohm didn't have a play to make. Yeah. It just scrappy, just made contact, didn't go very far, but still got a run through, so that's fine.
Yeah. And again, I just don't think we do that last year. I just don't think that team was capable of it, and it's good to see because those are the kind of games you're going to have to win when you get to October. You're not always going to have the long ball. You're going to have to find a way to beat really good pitchers. So I feel good that we're already talking about October in mid-April because I'm feeling that confident about this team and what they're doing. So, as we speak, as we record, typically we've told our audience we record on Monday night. They are playing the Nationals to kick off that series in D.C. They did tie the game. Matt Olson hit his 6th home run to tie the game at 2, but they've given it right back in the bottom of the 4th. So they're headed to the bottom of the 5th now as we do this. It's 3-2 Nationals. We'll see how that comes out as that game progresses. Let's talk about our NL East brethren for a minute because the Mets have lost 11 in a row coming into play on Monday, the 20th. The Phillies have lost 5 in a row as the Braves have won 5 in a row. Between those two teams, Mike, which one do you feel more confident about jumping back into this thing? For me personally, it's the Phillies.
Yeah.
I still think the Mets have something in them. I can't imagine it's going to get worse for them at this point, although who knows? Their schedule lightens a little bit. They're playing the Twins and then I think the Rockies. But those two teams haven't exactly been playing terrible baseball. So your thoughts, Mike? Mets, Phillies, do both of them get back in this or just one of them? How are you feeling?
It's probably for me. It's the Phillies. I feel like they're not as bad. Like I said last week, I love the Mets in last place. It's a great thing. And like I said on your live broadcast last night, the only team to ever have a 11-game losing streak and still make the playoffs is the 51 Giants. That's the Bobby Thompson shot around the world, and his possibility that there was a little bit of Stein ceiling in that, but whatever. Whatever, it happened. It's no one's gonna go back on it now. But yeah, I feel like if there's out of the two, the Phillies will probably claw back into us because Washington's not going to stay as good as they've started off. They're not. They're gonna fall out. They'll end up in last place. With the way the Mets have started,
Yeah.
they're destined for fourth, and the Marlins are probably third or second, which would be quite the shock. But I mean, that's fine as long as we're winning the division.
Yeah, I'm not as sure. I don't know. I go back and forth. I'm not as confident about the Marlins as I was. I watched them play a little bit over the week, this last week. I just don't know if they're going to be able to consistently score runs. You know, the name of the game nowadays is home runs, and they really don't have a lot of power on that team. So we'll see. I mean, they can scrap across runs. They steal bases and make contact. So possibly they could do it. The Braves have this 4-game set with the Nats, and then they come back home. As we mentioned, they host 3 with those Phillies. So hopefully the Phillies don't have a mat on when they get there and want some revenge, although I have a feeling they probably will. The Phillies coming up, they got to go play the Cubbies now. They are playing at Chicago for 4 games while we're playing the Nats, and then they come back to us. So certainly not an easy series there for the Phillies to try to end their skid. Meanwhile, the Mets, as I mentioned, they're playing the Twins, and then they've got the Rockies coming in. So we'll see if they 11 straight games. The Mets are off tonight, to be clear, on Monday. Then they start with the Twins coming up. So very interesting. That's also going to be interesting to see how the fans in New York react to their team as they come home on the Citi Field. could get ugly.
You're gonna hear a lot of boos. They are not happy at all. If they had a 4-game losing streak, they would be all over them. Forget about an 11-game losing streak.
True. You would think, though, maybe the fans would say, you know what, maybe this team needs a pickup. Maybe we need to come out and give them a standing ovation. You remember a couple of years ago, I think it was, when Trey Turner was having just a really terrible time at the plate, and the Philly fans actually gave him a standing ovation and tried to pump him up, and he turned things around after that. He started just bashing the ball. So I mean, maybe the Mets fans should take a lesson from that and say, instead of piling on these guys when they're down. I don't think that's what's going to happen, but it would be nice, I think, if you're a Mets player, right, to see that happen. We'll see what happens, though. That's going to be interesting. I'll be tuning into that game tomorrow night for sure to see what the crowd reaction is.
Yeah, both Philly fans and Mets fans are not the best, but I could see that more out of Philly fans than Mets fans. I mean,
for sure.
They're New Yorkers. They just hate everyone.
Absolutely, yes. So we are waiting on our special guests. Again, if you're just listening in, Brian Hunter, former member of the Atlanta Braves and 9-year major leaguer in the 1990s, member of the 91 Worst to First Braves that made it to the World Series. Brian actually had a huge home run in Game 7 against the Pirates in the National League Championship Series. We're going to ask him about that for sure. Then caught the last out of that game. Game 7 was a ground ball to him at first base, and he ran over and stepped on the base to send the Atlanta Braves to their first World Series in Atlanta history. So we will be waiting on Brian. Real quick, I was just going to look at some of these stats that our guy Nicholas Eck pulled for us once again, and we appreciate him. Just in the Phillies series alone, Michael Harris batted .857. He had 6 hits and 7 official at-bats, walked twice, which might be the most interesting part of that statistic with Mike's history of not walking. He did homer twice, 2 ribbies, and he did not strike out. I think that might be the other big story there. 2 walks and no strikeouts for Michael Harris. He's another guy, Mike, that he's a cog in this thing. When he's going right, the Braves offense is going right, and he's certainly been on a roll here. Hopefully he can keep this going into this next week.
Yeah, him and Dubon at the bottom of the lineup, if they can keep it rolling, it makes the offense click a whole lot better when we start scoring runs. So, we need him to not strike out as much and take a few walks. It's fine, as long as you get on base, because he's not slow. He can steal second base anytime he wants to.
Yeah, for I keep going back and looking and making sure. For Michael Harris to go through a 3-game series and not strike out and walk twice, that's a big win for him. And Acuna, by the way, had 3 walks. He had 12 at-bats, 3 hits, so he batted .250. It looks like those were all singles for Acuna in the series. So, again, he's getting on base, the 3 walks, the 3 hits, and he is dangerous once he gets on base. He's still making huge defensive plays. We didn't really talk about it. I hit on it briefly, but he made a great catch. I think that's being overlooked because he makes it look so easy. He
Yeah.
makes a catch last night in right field when Iglesias gets the last out of the game. Schwarber hits that. There's a lot of right fielders do not make that play, and you've got yourself a tie ball game. So we should never discount what Acuna is doing out there. Even when he's not hitting home runs, he's definitely contributing to the success of the team.
Yeah, his defense saves runs. So exactly, even if he's not getting us any runs, he's saving us some runs in the outfield. He's incredible. I still think about that throw last year against the Yankees, flat-footed, and just guns the guy out at third place. Like that right there, that saves runs. That flat out, like you don't have many players that can pull off something like that. I don't know how he threw it flat-footed like that. That's just a seed to third.
Yeah, and not only does he save runs like with those throws, I think the threat of his throws save runs. People don't try to take that home plate rounding third when they know Acuna's coming up to gun them down. So, yeah, absolutely, his defense is super important, and hopefully he can get the power back going here pretty soon. All right, welcome back, Braves fans. We are back, and we have got our special guest has joined us, as we told you guys. Former Atlanta Brave and Major League Baseball player Brian Hunter has joined the 9521 podcast, and we are so thankful to have Brian aboard. He is our first former Braves player to join the podcast. So, Brian, super excited to have you aboard, man. Thank you for coming on.
Oh, thank you for having me.
So, obviously you probably get a lot of these questions, Brian, that we're going to ask. But for Braves fans, to have a guy like you on, I was 14 years old, man, when you got called up in 91. And Mike was probably about the same age. Me and him are the same age. Yep. And I remember vividly, watching your home runs and watching you play the game. And, as a fan, when you get a young guy called up, you're always super excited to see a rookie come up. And that 91 team, obviously we're going to talk a lot about them, holds a special place in all Braves fans' hearts, the ones that are old enough to remember, like ourselves. You obviously went on and you played for the Pirates, the Reds, the Mariners, I believe, the Cardinals, and the Phillies. Did I get all those teams correct?
Mm-hmm.
We want to hear, Brian. Go ahead.
Got it.
Okay, good. You played 700 career games, apparently, 699 to be exact, across 9 MLB seasons. You came back to the Braves late in your career there in 99. So, Brian, we want to hear, you can lie to us if you want to. Was Atlanta your favorite spot during your 9 years in the big leagues?
100%. I was drafted by the Braves in '87. I came up with a lot of guys. I came up, right behind Justice and Blauser and Lemke. They were in the minor leagues ahead of me when I was coming up. Avery was right after me. Smotes had got traded to the Braves in '87. I met him in instructional league. So, I would think any big leaguer, their first team they ever played on in the big league should be their favorite team. So, the Braves was my favorite team and always will be.
Great answer. We love it. Great answer. That's awesome. I wanted to talk about that day. We had an author on one time, Brian, on one of my other podcasts where he did a book about the day that big leaguers got called up to the bigs. And he interviewed, I think it was like 50 players, and just talked about that day. I actually heard a little bit of an interview you did on another podcast talking about that. I believe you headed to San Francisco, correct? That was your first game. And you were telling a story on there, and I don't want to mess this up, so I'll let you tell it, but something about you passed Frankie Cabrera in the airport on the way to that. Can you tell us a little bit about the day you got called up and what that was like, and just that whole feeling of being called up to the bigs?
Okay. 91, spring training, I don't make the team out of spring training. And, in my mind at that point, it was my third big league camp. And, was in AA in AAA the year before and got sent down on May 31st, 1990. And, so my whole process of thinking that beginning of my AAA year in 91 was I was really playing for all the other 27 teams. I think I was about done with the Braves. Yeah. So, to keep my mind right, it was 27 more teams to play for. That particular year, they were, I think they were going to do the first AAA All-Star game with the PCL and the IL. So they were going to pick 2 teams, and it was going to be on ESPN. So my goal was to make that team, and that's all I was worrying about, was making that all-star team. So I'm having another, I usually don't start out to shoot pretty good, but for some reason I was, good in April and May. And the main reason of that is I'm from Southern California, and playing in cold weather, used to, if I could hit 200 in April and May, I was happy, because I had sleeves on, and, I needed to take these sleeves off and all that type of stuff. So, I'm having a good year. Start out to shoot, hitting about like 260, got 10 home runs and, 30 RBIs already in May, so I'm like, man, I'm rolling right now. And the Braves were in Candlestick, San Francisco. It was somebody's birthday that night, and most of us lived in the same apartment complex, so we were all at the I guess the bungalow or whatever we were at. We're in like the little section where everybody can hang out at by the pool, and we were watching the game. They were on the West Coast, so the game didn't come on to 10:30. We had just finished playing.
Yeah.
And I'm not thinking of anything. I got my mind focused on what I want to do and what I want to accomplish. And and Skip Carey is like, hey, the Braves made a move. They sent down Francisco Cabrera, but they didn't say who was getting called up. So nobody knew. Nobody knew who was getting called up. And in my mind, I'm serious. I wasn't even thinking about it. I didn't really see nobody coming to this, nobody from up top or assistant GM. Sherhost was the GM then. Nobody really came to Richmond and, to watch us or anything like that. So I wasn't thinking of anything. Go back to the apartment, getting ready to go to sleep, hanging out. I am asleep. About 2:30 in the morning. The trainer called me. Said, Brian, you just got called up. You gotta come pack your stuff. They'll be on the road for the rest of this weekend. They got an off day on Monday. Come back and get your car and all that stuff and head back to Atlanta. So I'm like, all right, so you get here, got my ticket. They took me to the airport like 6 a.m. Had the first flight out of Richmond, and I get to San Francisco. And for someone strange, I don't know how this ever happened. I was picking my bag up, and Francisco was dropping his off.
That's crazy.
And we crossed each other at the airport.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So in my mind, I just like, man, good luck, man. Keep your head up. But in my mind, I'm like, I'm not coming back. I'm not coming back. So, just keep your head up, man. Just try to do what you can to get back here.
Yeah, and if my memory recalls, he came back and had a pretty big hit. We may talk about here in just a minute.
Yeah, 92.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Mike, did you have anything real quick? I want to make sure. Brian, this is Mike Simpson, my co-host. Mike, did you have a question for Brian?
I was just going to ask what it was like to play for Bobby Cox, a Hall of Fame manager and one of the greatest ones in Braves history.
Bobby Cox was, if you platoon, that's what you were doing. I was platooner. I came up and was platooning with Sid Bream. Bobby Cox treated us like men. And if you, I don't know if you guys were so young, but back in the day, and probably even, I don't know what they do now, but back in the day, used to come out and stretch as a team. The Braves were the only team in probably baseball that didn't stretch as a team. The last time we did that was, the last day in spring training, we would go out there and stretch. But Bobby was like, yeah, you guys are men. You know how to get ready for the game. You're playing, get out there and get ready, for the game. And, Bobby Cox fought for every one of his players. That's why doesn't he have the record for most times getting kicked out of a game or something like that?
Yes,
he does. Yeah,
I think it's 162. It's like one enough for one every game of a season. Yeah, it's insane.
So I never got kicked out of game, so he didn't have to fight for me that hard. But Bobby was awesome. Another thing is, I got drafted in '87. He was the general manager. Yeah. So he was around in instructional leagues and stuff like that for a couple years. So I got to not necessarily talk to him, but I got to see him, before, him being the manager, moving down to be the manager. But to answer your question, he was probably one of the, and one last thing, he wore spikes in the dugout too.
Really?
He didn't wear some. Bobby had spikes, so that was funny for him walking around in spikes. But nice. He was a good manager. I really like playing for him.
Yeah, Bobby's very revered in Atlanta for sure. Brian, so you get called up, and I believe you got your first major league hit in your second game. Am I right? Off Trevor
Yes.
Wilson of the
Yes.
Giants.
Trevor Wilson. Yes.
What does that feel like for us guys who we're not athletic? We never had a chance to play baseball in the bigs. What does that feel like, man, when you connect, you get that first hit in the big leagues?
I mean, as a guy getting called up, you always, dream of your first at bat hitting that home run. So my first at bat, I lined out to Matt Williams. I think that was a Friday. I went 0 for 3 on Friday. Didn't play Saturday. My mom was able to get to Candlestick on Saturday. Sunday, my first at bat, I got a hit for Trevor Wilson, so she was able to see my hit. So,
Nice.
it's just one of those things. You get that first one out the way, and I got it within my first 4 at bats. So I was very fortunate to get that one out the way, so I didn't think about that.
That's awesome. Yeah. So coming up, Brian, as a young player, was there a hero of yours in baseball, somebody you emulated or you looked up to coming up as you made your way to the big leagues?
I had I watched baseball my whole life. I always wanted to be, a football player also. So I always watched football. Wasn't that great at basketball. Played basketball a lot, but wasn't that great at it. But baseball just seemed really, really easy for me for some reason. And another thing about me, I was what you call a backwards player. I threw left-handed but batted right-handed.
Yeah.
So at the time of me growing up, it wasn't really nobody that was doing that until, like late 70s when Ricky Henderson, got on the scene, and I was able to watch him do it. But I think that one of the first few people I really, really liked growing up was Jim Rice. Obviously, the Pittsburgh Pirates, the We Are Family team. I'm from LA, but really never liked the Dodgers. Never liked the Dodgers. never liked the Angels.
We're okay with that. Yeah, we're okay with that. Yeah.
We don't like the Dodgers either. You're fine. That's fine with us.
Yeah.
And then when I got to high school, and it was Kirby Puckett, because we had the same type of body. I thought, a little, thick legs, and I really liked how he played, but I didn't play center field. I watched Rock Carew at first. I watched Matt. Who else? I watched Don Mattingly at first. Sid Hernandez at first. Just trying to make sure I know how to do it, and just how, because they were left-handed, so had to make sure I watched. So it was a lot of people, and then coming up with the Braves, you just happen to have Hank Aaron walking around.
Not bad. Bad.
Hank Aaron was he was I think vice president of player operations. He didn't really get to do too much. He really couldn't come to too many games because he didn't, too many people trying to get autographs.
Yeah.
So I had him walking around. My AA hitting coach was Eddie Matthews. And then I had Willie Stargell was roving, so I had some people, to, in my corner, and was really helping me, Then also, like I said, I had Dave Justice that I really watched a lot. Ron Gant, so in my mind, I was trying to catch them too.
That's incredible. Yeah, that's not bad advice to get from Hank Aaron and Eddie Matthews. That's pretty good. It's pretty good. And
I'm a bio guy. I used to read all my coaches' bios, and then when I didn't know that much about Eddie Matthews, and then I read his bio, and he had more 40 home run seasons than Hank, but Hank played longer. And I couldn't believe that. I could not believe he had more 40 home runs than Hank. Right. I really didn't know who he was. So I was like, man, this is outstanding.
Yeah, absolutely. He does get a little bit, not forgotten, but a little bit pushed aside. But Hank is Hank. I think that's okay. And then you, correct me if I'm wrong, Brian, you got to play not only with those great players. Of course, you had the pitchers as well, Tommy Glavine, John Smoltz. But you also played with Barry Larkin and Ken Griffey Jr., am I right?
Yeah. Yes, played with Ken Griffey Jr., played with Barry Larkin. Me and Ken Griffey Jr., we played against each other in the Connie Mack World Series, 86 summer. He played for the Midland Redskins, and I played for the Norwalk Birds out of California. And we mercy ruled them the first time, and we beat him in the championship the second time. So it was, but I was 18, he was 16. It was an 18 and under tournament. And, he was still pretty much better than all of us at 16, So, I remember him shaking hands after we're after shaking hands after the game. He's like, it's okay. I'm gonna be the first pick anyway. So I'm like, okay, but ended up being the first pick in my draft. So yeah, I ended up playing a lot of Hall of Famers. Andrew Jones just popped up on the scene, Chipper Jones, so them, and then managers too, and then Dion for football, so I played with a lot of I've been fortunate enough to play with a lot of Hall of Famers. I don't even want to talk about the pitchers. Everybody know the staff in Atlanta. Randy Johnson, played with him in Seattle. Edgar Martinez. I was been fortunate enough to play with a lot of Hall of Famers.
Yeah, definitely. So let's talk about 1991, Brian. We would be remiss not to. I'm putting your postseason stats up here for 1991. 10 hits, 3 doubles, 2 homers, 7 ribbies. So for a rookie to have that kind of performance in the postseason, not bad there. Not bad there, Brian. So what was it like? So you get called up, and the Braves, of course, this was a season where they would become the Braves that we all know and love now. Before that, it was pretty rough. And you're in this great pennant race, one of the last great pennant races before the wild card against the Dodgers. So as a rookie, you're playing in these huge games, especially in the second half of the season. A lot of tension, I imagine, a lot of pressure. How was the team, and how did you handle that as a rookie? But also, was the team like super confident during all that they were going to come out on top, even though the Dodgers were considered the more experienced team and people kind of thought they would end up winning it? What was the mood like? And then for you personally, how did you feel playing in those kind of games near the end of the season?
I can't really say that we were confident that we were going to win it or make it, win the pennant. But, we were very young. The oldest guys on our team were Terry Pendleton, who was our captain, and Sid Bream, and then the big lefty, what was his name? Our left-handed starter, Charlie Lee Brandt.
Charlie Brandt, yep.
Those were really the older guys. Everybody else was young. I remember one time during the year, Terry Pendleton came up to me and was like, Brian, if you do something, we're going to win. I've told that before, and people's like, were you nervous by him telling you that? I said, not really, because I already had that not pressure, but I already put that on me. Like, I got to do something, I want to do something.
Yeah.
And, the beginning of that run was, it was still no fans there before the All-Star break. We were at the All-Star break, we were 10 games out. We were 10 games out at the All-Star break. And, when we started the second half, we won 9 out of 10 and the Dodgers lost 9 out of 10.
Yep.
And then from that point forward, it was like, every single day, our old philosophy with the Braves was, when we started the series, we just tried to win the series, and we really tried to win game 1. We wanted to win game 1. So our main focus was really trying to win game 1, and then whatever happened after that, we're trying to win the series. And, with that going, with us winning 9 out of 10 and the Dodgers losing 9 out of 10, pretty much from, the All-Star break until the last 2 days of the season, it was playoff atmosphere, every single game. Dave hit a big home run. I think he hit a big home run in Cincinnati. It was crazy. It was crazy and fun at the same time. I had a lot of fun, and I was, as being a rookie, and then my main buddy Keith Mitchell got called up late, and so we were the 2 rookie position players. Mark Wohlers got called up late. He was the only rookie pitcher that we had, so we didn't have a old team. It was really young. I was 23, Dave was 24, Ronnie was 25, Dion was 24, Blauser, Lemke, I think were 24, 25, so our core, was really young. Lonnie Smith, Otis had got suspended. Lonnie Smith did good for us. Dion did his part, so we just it was just really functioning on that, that platoon system. When we brought our right-handed lineup in against the lefty, we were pretty tough.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember, again, I was 14 and loved the Braves since I was younger, a kid. And I was living and dying every day, Brian, waiting to see the Dodgers score. And, I was 14, but my parents still said I had to go to bed at a certain time. But I would get my radio and my headphones out. If you guys were on the West Coast, I was going to listen to that radio broadcast. And if you guys were on the West Coast, I was going to stay up late enough to find the score of the Dodgers game and see if they lost. So, amazing summer. It was amazing.
It was crazy. I remember I don't know what time of year it was. Late. It had to been like August. The Dodgers came in and won 3 out of 4, and it was it was packed in Atlanta. And then we went to LA and won 3 out of 4.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm from out here. You know, so LA, the Dodgers, the Raiders, and the Lakers. You can't wear nobody other jersey in the stadium. You know,
Right.
so they told our families, no tomahawks. They had police. They had police surrounding the section of where our parents and our family were sitting for the whole game.
Wow.
It was intense, but it was fun at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. Good stuff. So you guys win the division. I believe it was the second to last day of the year. You guys clinched it. Yeah, you beat Houston, if I remember right.
Beat Houston.
Yeah. And I think the Giants did you guys a solid and took out the Dodgers that same day. And
yes, they did.
Watching you guys, you were watching it on the screen, I believe, as it happened. Just great memories. So we get into the playoffs, and I don't think a lot of people really thought you guys were going to take out the Pirates. The Pirates were, again, a veteran team. They'd been in the NLCS the year before. And you guys go in there, and it becomes one of the great NLCSs of all time, first of all. I know that you had a huge first-inning home run in Game 7. 2-run shot, I believe, with 2 outs. And all the momentum at that point was with the Braves. What did that feel like, Brian? What were you thinking as you went up there? I mean, I'm just trying to imagine as a rookie in the NLCS in Game 7, first inning, you hit one out of the park, give your team a lead. What did that feel like?
I mean, to start it off was Avery threw that gem in Game 6, a 1-0 game.
Yes.
And Pena closed it on he got Van Slyke to pop up late, right to the wall to end that game. And we got Smokes. He was our second half guy. And I think I've said it before, in our pro scouting meetings, they had mentioned that, and I had been hitting Smiley good the whole year. I don't think I hit a home run off him, but I was hitting good. I was comfortable against him. And they said, if he missed changeup first pitch, he's going to throw a fastball inside. And he missed changeup first pitch. I look inside almost every pitch until I get 2 strikes anyway. And I was just able to keep it fair. I put a good swing on it and keep it fair. And then to give us like a 2-run lead right out the shoot. And Smokes, we were very comfortable. It was very comfortable after that, and Smokes was dealing. And I think I ended up hitting another RBI. I hit an RBI double later in the game, so just to add on a little bit to it. So, I think my biggest thing was I knew all my friends and everybody would be watching it, because it was Game 7. And I remember Game 7s growing up watching Reggie Jackson and, just all the Game 7, stars that you become a star if you do something in Game 7. I wasn't thinking about that, but it ended up happening. And, that's just how my mind was set. I just knew so many people were watching. I didn't realize I was only 23 years old. I was a rookie. I didn't think none of that stuff. I was just thinking about trying to help us win any way I could.
Yeah, well, you certainly did that in Game 7. And then the iconic moment, one of the moments I remember the most is you get the ground ball to end it. You raise your hands because you knew you had it, and you just had to go step on the base. That had to be an amazing feeling. I can tell you as a fan, it was an amazing feeling to watch it. And, just being able to talk to you like this after all these years and being a fan, I mean, it's just incredible. Just, again, I'm going to stop and thank you again for doing this. It's fantastic.
I'm surprised I'm the first Brave player to be on here.
Well, we're not very old. We really just started this back in January. I started a little bit last year, a solo, and brought on Mike in January to try to really get it going. So I've messaged with Kent Merker a couple times trying to get Kent to come on and see us. But just super happy to have you, Brian. So 1991, we won't spend too much time on the World Series, but what was it like to play in what's widely considered one of the greatest World Series of all time? What was that like? And then how did you guys handle that disappointment of coming up just short, man, just barely short there?
That was, the difficult thing about that World Series, especially playing, it was like whoever was at home won pretty much. We won 3 at home, they won 4.
Yep.
But the difficult thing playing in the Metrodome just imagine playing with a white ball with a white ceiling, and they got white hankies, and how loud it was. I mean, you physically couldn't hear. You couldn't hear yourself. You couldn't hear yourself say, "I got it." You couldn't look down thinking you was going to run into somebody. And then, when you go to a concert and you get home and you lay in the bed and your ears are ringing still, that's how it was after every game in the Metrodome. Wow. It was like that after every single game. I think, obviously I wanted to win, but like I said earlier in this conversation, we had started the playoffs after the first 10 games of the second half. Yeah. And when we lost that game 7, I was like, as much as I wanted to win, I was glad it was over, because it was just so intense that you had to not let it be intense at the same time, because you had something to do, you had your job. But it was, we were rocking and rolling. We were after it. They got us on, they got Lonnie Smith on they deked him at second base. He should have scored, but still everybody talk about that, but still we got second and third, no outs, and we got 3, 4, 5 coming up. We're supposed to score. They walk Dave, Ronnie Gann pop up on the infield, and then with 2 strikes, Sid Bream just puts it in play. He's the slowest man in baseball, so that's automatic double play. So, and I was on deck, so I was so mad. I'm like, we still had a shot. But then again, when you're in the World Series, you're facing an ace. Right. You don't know what's gonna happen. It was like aces. We blew them out at home. I think they blew us out one game in Minnesota early, one like game 2, I think. But it was tough. It was tough. But to answer the question, I was really, not relieved that we lost, but relieved that all this pressure was off my head.
It was mentally draining, it sounds like.
Oh,
right?
my God. It was, but you know what? I always say, we're the best. We're the best athletes. We're the best guys from all the 3 to 4 sports because, mentally we got to convince ourselves, we got to trick ourselves that we're good every day, regardless of what's going on. So regardless of what was going on, it was the World Series. I was mentally ready to play. I was mentally ready. And if we had one more game, I would have got myself ready to play, the next day.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I've often looked back on that series, Brian, and thought, man, because back then they just switched. One year the American League had a home field, one year the National League. Yeah. If it had just been the National League's year, you guys would have won that series. There's no question in my mind about that. Yeah. So, you mentioned Sid Bream. You set us up really well there, Brian, for this next segment. 1992, you guys, you win the division again. Now people are kind of expecting you guys to win. And then we get to the postseason. You got those Pirates again. And another incredible 7-game series. Get to the bottom of the 9th, down 2-0. Doug Drabeck spends a heck of a game for the Pirates. And correct me if I'm going off memory here. I didn't look this up. I want to say right before the hit, were you not at bat? Did you pop out right?
Usually what happens with Sid Bream at second base in those situations, I would come in and pinch run for him.
Yeah.
So that'd be automatic. But we hadn't used anybody on the bench yet. They had used a lefty, and I already know. I knew for a fact they wasn't going to have a lefty out there if I came in to pinch hit. So I think as soon as they announced me, I think they brought Belinda in, and they had the infield in. Here's the thing: they had the infield in. First pitch, I hit a bullet down the line foul, and then they backed him up. He threw a slider in the dirt, and he jammed. I would have had the little duck fart that would have went over the infield in, but moved him back. So I popped up, and then right after that, Frankie came up and just got the hit of the ages. That could probably go down as one of the biggest hits in playoff history. That wasn't World Series, but playoff history.
Yeah, and of all people to score on that play, you just mentioned Sid. Was that the fastest you ever saw Sid run during your time with Sid?
I think that's the fastest the whole world ever sees Sid run. And we hit it to the right guy. Barry wasn't known for having a good arm.
True. Yeah.
So if you dive in and really look at it, he has the ball before Sid touches third base. So he just couldn't throw him out. He threw it up the line a little bit, Sid slid perfectly, and then the celebration begins again after that. It was awesome.
Yeah, I know you ran out of the dugout. What was that moment like? I mean, as a fan, I was losing my mind in my living room. I was going crazy, screaming and yelling, waking my family up. But what was it like for you guys to see that in person? Just
We
be a part
couldn't
of it.
believe it. I mean, we couldn't believe it. And like me, I just popped up, so I was planning on trying to be the man again, 2 Game 7s in a row against the same team. So my focus is on that. The Tomahawk Chops they were going crazy. It was super loud. So I was like, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready for this. Then I didn't do it, and then Sid picked us. I mean, Sid picked us up by scoring, but Frankie picked us up with the one of the biggest hits in Braves history.
Yeah, Frankie's forever beloved. No matter what else he ever did, he's forever
Yeah.
beloved in Atlanta for sure. Mike, did you have anything? I'm hogging the time here. Did you have a question
That's
for
fine.
Brian?
You can hog the time.
Okay.
I'm happy to sit here and listen. But
I'm thoroughly enjoying myself, if you can't tell.
Yeah. No, so am I. Don't worry. No, I was like, you actually saw it live. I unfortunately, I live up in the Boston area,
Okay.
so I had to watch it on CBS, I believe it was on, and I couldn't. My mother told me to go to bed. I was 15 years old. She's like, go to bed. So I have a VHS tape of the game, and I remember I went to bed in the 6th inning, down 2-0, and I remember waking up in the morning. I said, get me up early. I want to see the rest of the game. I go in, I watch the rest of it. So at 7 o'clock in the morning, I'm watching you guys go nuts after Frankie's hit. So it was like, it was great. But like, yeah, I was asleep when it all happened. So
yeah,
great stuff. So Brian, I got to ask this question. Did you get to spend any time or talk to Barry Bonds at all? Like, the Braves have to be on his hit list, man. Like, we kept him out of the postseason really 3 straight years because 93 you guys won the division and defeated them before they could get to the playoffs. Did you ever get to talk to Barry? Did he ever say, "Hey man, why do you do me like that"?
Not necessarily. I didn't really get to talk to him. And then 93 I got hurt early, and then 94 I got traded to Pittsburgh. But that 94, 90 after the 93 season, Barry and Bonilla left. So I was hoping I was going to get a chance to, talk to him and hang around those two greats. But just when he got a hit or we walked him, I would speak to him a little bit. But other than that, not overly talk about anything but what was happening at that point.
Yeah, I figured he's probably not a big Braves fan, after all that. But or neither's Andy Van Slyke, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So Brian, what have you been up to since baseball, man? What have you done since?
Once I finished playing, my last year was 2000. Then about 2002, I started scouting, and I scouted for the Mets, the Expos before they turned to the Nationals, and then scouted for the Braves for a little bit too. And then that I stopped doing that. I have 2 sons, 129 and 123. They both ended up being football guys. And my oldest son played at a D3 in California and then played overseas in Australia and Germany. And then my youngest son is going into his redshirt senior year right now at San Diego State. Nice. So I dipped back down to try to make sure, I didn't miss too much, of those guys. And then about 2017, I started working with MLB. It's called the Breakthrough Series, and it's called MLB Develops. So that's the Breakthrough Series, Hank Aaron Invitational. We got another thing called the Program. So I've been working with them with MLB since like 2017. Our home base is Vero Beach, where the Dodgers used to be.
Yeah.
And now it's called Jackie Robinson Complex. Nice. So, we're definitely on IG. Everybody, you guys look on MLB Develops on IG. And, what it is it's a lot of former Black players. And we coach all, Black kids from around the country. Nice. And, we got some of the best kids in the country, that we get to coach and, get those guys ready for college and if they get drafted.
That's extremely cool. Extremely cool. And I would be remiss. I think it's just a few days past, not to mention Jackie Robinson Day. And growing up, Brian, as an African-American player, what did Jackie mean? I mean, did you know the story? Did you know Jackie Robinson's story? How important was Jackie growing up for you?
I mean, it was, obviously, I knew of him because he went to UCLA.
Yeah,
and learning that part of his history, that was a big part of it. And just being able to, understand what he had to go through, just to play a game, And like I said, I had Willie Stargell. So Willie Stargell was around that time, right after that, and he was going through some stuff too, and he was telling me a lot of stories. So, and then I got to meet Hank. So I was around, a lot of stuff I was getting all this great information.
Yeah.
I never got to meet Jackie, but just being around Hank Aaron and then Willie Stargell, I thought that was like, golden. But just growing up and being able to, I didn't remember the '68 Olympics, but I saw highlights, and that was a big thing, with the black glove, the runners who did that, and just the history of being a black athlete in this country, what it meant, what was attached to you besides your last name, is just to be not just a performer, you're playing for, and a lot of people are watching you. And, you have to represent not just only for you and your family, but for all the little kids that's out there that want to be like you.
Yeah, for sure. We talked about Jackie on a previous podcast, and I really think Jackie deserves more than a day, Brian. I think they should give him a full week, recognition. But thanks for sharing that with us. We appreciate that. So do you still follow the Braves? Do you still keep up with what the Braves are doing? You still watch Major League Baseball?
I don't watch that much of anything baseball-wise anymore, but I do follow the Braves because of the manager. He was our shortstop. Walt was our shortstop in '99. So he's a great teammate. And that last little fight the Braves got in, if you guys can pull up a fight that we got in with the Astros, and he had their man in the headlock underneath, underneath. Yeah. Walt.
I was going to ask you if you taught Walt how to do that spear.
Oh, no, Walt, in '99, Walt brought MMA to us. He used to bring the tapes in, and we would watch that before the game. So I was excited to see Walt do that. He's he's been around. He's been around big brawls from the A's and all that type of stuff. So if he was my manager and I see my manager down in the pile, you better believe I'm got to get down in the pile with him.
Oh yeah. And I don't know if it's coincidence. The Braves are like 10-2 since that happened too.
Oh, that's awesome. Eddie Perez, me and Eddie Perez played in the minor leagues together. He's still with the Braves, so I like to see him when I come in town. I just know the guy. I try to root for the guys that were still playing, when I was around. Aaron Boone, I played with him in AAA. I played against Brett. We're from out here. Yeah. So we played against each other growing up. I just try to, watch certain hitters. I like to watch Ohtani hit. Just certain guys I like to watch hit at this point. It's really hard for me to watch a full game. It's just too much stuff going on. There's too much stuff going on with the strike zone. You can tap your hat, and you extra innings. They can put a man at second. I'm like, it's too much stuff going on for me to really get after stuff. It's totally different. But I wish when I was playing, they didn't mind you striking out as much as everybody strike out. We was getting sent down to AAA. You strike out that many times.
Right.
Bobby Cox didn't play that striking out, not moving the runner over stuff. He was get us out of there.
Yeah, being an old school fan, I'm sure Mike feels the same way. Anytime we got a guy on third with less than 2 outs and we don't get him home, I'm losing my mind. I'm like,
but even with that, I've seen some of these extra inning games when, they put that dude at second and the home team don't even try to move him over.
Yeah.
You can win the game. All you got to do is move him over.
That's right.
But it's okay.
Get a sack fly and it's over.
It's over. And I think that's the same, look, the basketball that I watch. I don't know how much basketball you guys watch, where guys get an offensive rebound in the key and pass it out to somebody to miss a three. I'm like, I understand. I want points. I want to
win the basket. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely different for sure. So, do you ever go back for like the Braves alumni weekends and do?
I haven't done that in a while because most of the time I'm coaching with like my summer is filled with coaching these kids all summer. So and then I will be in Atlanta probably like around the last week of June. We'll be coaching in the World Wood Bat Championships, like 17U. So I'll be in Atlanta then. I always get my email, but I haven't been to an event. I haven't been to an alumni event in probably over 5 years.
Okay. All right. Well, if you ever make it back up there, I'd love to come by and say hi. Just say hi. Yeah. Awesome.
Look us up on that IG, and then like I said, you'll be able to see our team. Our team will be really good, but we'll be in Atlanta that last week of June playing.
Very cool. We'll do that. Brian, I don't want to take up any more of your time. I can't thank you enough for coming on, man. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Thank you guys for having me.
Have a good one, man. Thanks.
All right. You too.
All right. So great interview with Brian Hunter there, Mike. I'm still like fanboying over here a little bit, shaking. I just remember that 1991 team. It holds such a special place in all of our hearts, but it connects me to so many memories, my grandparents, and just the excitement of that pennant race. He captured it, during the interview, just the back and forth with the Dodgers, trying to find out the score late at night because they're on the West Coast. I mean, it was just knowing we were talking to the guy that made the last out there, caught the last out of the championship series. What were your thoughts there, Mike? I got to gather mine a little bit. I'm a little scrambled right now.
I mean, don't feel bad for hogging it. Trust me. I was happy to just sit there and listen. Like,
I was on a roll. I was so scared he was just going to jump off on us,
Yeah, no, like I was great, especially like hearing like his perspective on the 92 Game 7. That was great. Like I said. Yeah. I didn't watch it live. I couldn't. My mom said, go to bed.
That's a great story, though. Mine was similar. I was able to stay up, but my family went to bed. And I was watching it in the living room. I had a TV at the time in my bedroom, but it was a smaller one, so I wanted to watch it in the living room. They went to bed because they weren't really big baseball fans. I don't know why this particular night I wasn't at my grandparents' where I usually watched it, probably because it was a school night. And I'm watching it on TV, and I had this superstition back then, Mike. I listened to a lot of the biggest Braves moments on the radio. I loved Skip Carey and that group. And I meant to ask him more about Skip. Maybe we'll get him on again one time. But I had the radio on in my bedroom down low, but I was in the living room watching the game. And when Cabrera hit the ball, I jumped up and ran to my bedroom and listened to Skip make the call. Braves win, Braves win, Braves win. I got there just in time to hear that. It wasn't until the next day watching the highlights on the news, because you couldn't pull it up on YouTube back then, that I heard, I think it's Sean McDonough call there of, the Braves go to the World Series. So that's how I listened to it, and I lost it. I didn't care who was asleep. I lost it. I was yelling. My mom got up. She said, "What happened?" I said, "The Braves won." And it was probably like 10 o'clock at night at that point. And I called my grandmother, and she was like crying and happy. And it was just, those are memories, man, that you can't beat. And if she were here and my granddad was here to know that I just interviewed Brian Hunter, they'd be like, amazed. It'd be amazing. So we just can't thank Brian enough for coming on. And, hopefully we'll get some more former players on from the 90s, because that's just an amazing time in Braves history. Yeah,
that's what made you and I Braves fans.
Absolutely,
was that time frame exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, like you said, and most of Braves fans tend to remember Skip's call. Yes. I have Sean McDonough's call engraved in my head because that's all I had.
It was a good call too. It was a great call. It was a great call. Yeah. And you know what? I think Pirates fans, they can see. Sid was safe. It was close. Lavalier had a good tag. It was close. I'm glad there was no instant replay, though, because it would have ruined that moment of having to wait now for them to review. You can't get those moments back once they pass. So I'm glad there was no replay then, just in case. But credit to the umpire. And for the one thing I don't remember about that, who the home plate umpire was, but credit to him for getting that right, because it was close enough that he could have messed it up and called him out. So credit
to
him. He
was in the right position, though. I remember the shot. He was in the right position to see whether he was safe or not.
He was in the perfect spot for sure. I'm going to have to go back and give that guy his kudos and see who that was. Get his name out.
If I remember correctly, I want to say that the guy who was the home plate umpire at the beginning of the game went out. He got sick or something like that, and then they ended up being down to 5. I want to say they pulled like the guy from right field or something like that to cover the plate, but I'm not sure.
I don't remember that. That's super interesting. I was looking at the.
I think I went back and watched it somewhat recently. I want to say it might have been on like Pluto TV.
All right, so at least originally it was Doug Harvey at home plate. Now, if he's the one that got sick, also Frank Pulley, Dana DeMuth, Eric Gregg was on that crew, Bob Davidson, and Bruce Fremming. I think it was Harvey, but not positive. But anyway, regardless.
I'm glad Eric Gregg wasn't behind the plate, though, because he screwed us in 97.
Yeah. Eric Gregg definitely cost us the NLCS in 1997. No question about it. Some horrendous umpiring there. All right. Well, we'll wrap this up, Mike. As we speak, our Bravos have rallied, so we'll talk about this game next week. But or maybe we'll do our Friday night show if you can pop on Friday night. We may do our Friday night live show and interact with some Braves fans. The Braves have rallied to take a 7-4 lead on the Nats, and that's going into looks like bottom of the 8th. So feeling pretty good about that one. All right, great stuff. Awesome week for the Braves, and we finished it up with interviewing Brian Hunter. So you can't ask for more than that.
Nope, cannot.
Great stuff. Thanks, Braves fans. We'll get this episode out to you guys, and until then, we'll see you at the ballpark, and go Braves.